Welcome back to Bullpen Banter. I'm your host, Ian Finlayson, here with Christian Larson, Evan Davidson, and Zach Phillips. And the Toronto Blue Jays 2024 season is in the books. 74 wins, 88 losses. The first round of the wild card is also in the books. We got the Tigers moving on. We got the Mets moving on too. We got some great storylines. So we're going to go over all that. We're going to talk about Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro's year-end media availability that they held on Wednesday morning, and kind of go through some of the interesting comments that were made during that, and just break it all down.
Interesting. That's one way to put them.
Yeah. Always interesting, right? I mean, I would say there was maybe a little bit more meaty stuff in this one than some of them, like definitely than that, like holiday midseason Atkins availability during the season. That was a mess, but what do you guys take away in terms of like major talking points?
I think if somebody asks you about your best player and they ask you to say nice things about him, if you don't believe nice things about him, you say nice things about him. And that's a little bit of an exaggeration of what happened. We all know that he was asked if Vlad was a generational player. And he didn't say no, but he didn't say yes. He said he could get there. And we'll get into the direct quote exactly. But I just think that he could have potentially answered the question a little bit better than he did.
It's funny comparing what he said about Vlad to John Schneider when asked the same question, because John Schneider, the quote was, "I do. Yeah, I do." And then when asked the face of the franchise also, he goes, absolutely. He's at the point performance-wise and where he is personality-wise that he can definitely do that with how he's recognized around the game. So it's just fun to, see how the manager speaks so highly of him, and then you get Shapiro just like, maybe not.
Yeah, just like that disconnect again with the manager and the GM going back to the Twin series from last year. And now it's kind of happened again, but in a different way. I mean, I kind of get why he would say that, although it doesn't come off as great. Because he's definitely a player that doesn't grow on trees very often, right? No, but I personally think he's a generational player. I think perhaps the reason why he's saying that is so he could try to lower his value when he's trying to go with the extension talks. That's going to happen presumably very soon, I hope, because otherwise Toronto and the Blue Jays are not going to be an attracting franchise for free agents. So hopefully that gets done soon. What do you guys think about that?
I'm going to play just like a little bit of devil's advocate here. And like, I do agree with that. Like, he was given the opportunity to say good things about the best player on the team, and he probably should have done that. Like, he should have like probably strayed away from anything that like could be construed as negative at all. However, I don't necessarily think that the answer was entirely negative, and it kind of is coming from like a place of like just speaking matter of factly and factually. Like, he isn't technically a generational player until he's like, done all that and like to have the Albert Pujols or Miguel Cabrera career and has the numbers like on paper and had the big moments, right? So like, I guess I kind of understand what he's talking about. I still don't think it was the right way to go about it, but like I kind of can see where he was coming from, I guess. Just to go for some comps here, starting with his dad, like Vlad Sr. Had 136 home runs and 19 and a half wins above replacement through his age 25 season. Vlad has already surpassed that. He's got 160 home runs, 21 and a half wins above replacement, which of course WAR is imperfect, but like just as kind of like a general way to get a summation of who a player is. It's not a bad like starting point. And then, you look at other guys who are like shoe-in Hall of Famers, Frank Thomas, 105 home runs, 22 and a half WAR. Miguel Cabrera, 175 home runs, 21 WAR. So he's like right around those same kind of markers as guys like that through this point of his career. It would be pretty easy just to like say yes to that question, I guess.
That's what I was just going to say is based off those comps right there. It's just too easy to just agree, especially because of how we knew that press conference could go, how it was going to go. That Rosie DiMano nuke, by the way. Oh my goodness. jaw hit the floor, bro. That was crazy. Although, and I have to admit, Mark handled it pretty well. I liked his little snapback, but then the charm quote back from Rosie was pretty good. It was what were you guys watching that live? What was your live breakdown to that?
I didn't see that clip of that, and just the back and forth between. You know that you already know that Shapiro and Rosie they've already had that kind of dilemma between the two of them. Yeah, I thought it was just hilarious. It's a very serious press conference. Everyone's demanding answers, and then we have that bomb come out. And it kind of also makes you think that it could be bullshit. But if that was true, who would it actually come from? That was what I was.
Yeah, I mean, and there's always going to be some dissatisfaction. Like when the team's not performing well, it's unsurprising, I feel like, in a way, right? But
I'm sure someone might have said that to her, but I'm sure it came at a really low point or from the right guy in the right moment who probably doesn't genuinely believe that. And then she spun it. I'm not saying that she did or whatever, but that's my hypothetical of the situation is that maybe it did happen, but maybe not in the context that she used it in. It's interesting to know. Maybe it didn't happen at all.
Just from an outsider looking in, personally, and this has no basis in really like anything concrete, but it's kind of seemed to me like the morale was pretty. I mean, before the trade deadline, it seemed horrendous. Like it obviously, and that's understandable given like the state of flux all those guys are in, and the uncertainty. But like after, for a team that had such high expectations and was out of it, and it was all about auditioning for next year, et cetera, talked about a million times. It seemed that the morale was pretty good. I don't know if you guys got the same impression.
I had fun watching. Yeah. I felt a different shift in even just watching the games. You could tell it's like Springer wasn't in a slump. He was having fun. The dancing in the dugout, the jacket came back. It definitely the vibes went up as the year went on. But I do believe it was the start of something potentially better, hopefully, but I don't think that from the outside looking in that you could look and say, oh, people were yelling and screaming and fighting in the locker room, because that just didn't seem to be from the outside looking in what was happening at all.
Well, from a fan perspective, watching them after the deadline, because the season's kind of gone to shit by that point, and they bring up all these young guys, and you start kind of caring about, or you stop caring about the team success, and you're like, I want to see these young guys and see how much they can do in the future for our franchise, right? And I went to a couple games and I'm checking my phone to make sure Barger's in the lineup, right? Just because I want to watch. These guys have these raw talent that can be so exciting, right? And you just hope that they succeed, because that if they succeed, it's just going to be good things in the future for the team.
If there's veterans in that team and have been playing the big leagues for quite some time, like Chris Bassett, Kevin Gausman, I mean, there could be some frustration behind closed doors for sure, because it was a down year and they're in that time in that careers where they want to be winning World Series and going deep in the postseason. But at the same time, I feel like knowing what their personalities are like in the dugout or in the dugout just a little bit, they would have to be a good role model for those younger guys. So I think they just have to be they have to be a little bit more positive, which I'm assuming they were. So it's hard to imagine that the vibes were going downwards after a trade deadline.
Yeah. Just for fun, who do you guys think said that? Do you guys want to try and guess?
I think it would be super fun to do it. This is pure speculation and absolutely from all four of us. I think I'm still trying to figure out if it happened or not. I don't think you can just go in there guns blazing and have that not being said. So I think it was either from I think it's something Chris would say, and I think he said it after a bad start or a bad game, and I think he immediately regretted it, probably after he said it, and especially who he said it and who heard it. So I think
Alec Boehm situation, Philly.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's just pure guess. What about you guys? What do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines as you, but more Gausman, because Gausman and Bassett have both been not outspoken, but they've kind of shared their thoughts a little bit on the season, just on their frustrations. right? So like I could see the exact same situation with Gosman, just coming back and just not having fun.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to. Yeah. Go
okay,
ahead.
you're still thinking. I'll go.
Yeah.
So, Gosman and Bassett are definitely like the obvious culprits. I think like it obviously wasn't any of the young guys. They're actually saying that first coming up to the majors. It would have been any of the vets that got traded off. Like even though they were probably like not happy with the situation there, and I don't see like IKF or Turner, and Jano, and I don't see any of those guys saying anything like that. Like the one guy that's popping in my head for some reason is Zach Pop. Like I'm like I can kind of see like that like Zach Pop saying that. I don't know why.
That's funny.
I'll go with Zach Pop.
Good Canadian boy just ripping on his country's team.
You're referring to Buffalo for being a shithole.
Yeah, possible.
I hopped on Twitter quickly just to see what like random people were thinking about it, and someone like Blue Jays Today on Twitter posted like a TikTok explaining the whole ordeal, and the number one comment is Bassett or Gosman. Traded, we will find out.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I think there's one sneaky one we haven't mentioned, and it could have been Bo potentially. And like I don't know if that's something he would say or not, but
maybe.
I don't know.
Like, that crossed my mind as well. Like, maybe. I don't know. Like I can kind of see it, kind of not. I know what you mean.
I doubt it. I highly doubt it. He's way too smart to say it to her. Absolutely. Not that I'm saying that she's a bad reporter or anything like that, but another sneaky candidate would have been Matt Chapman on his way out. But it seemed too long ago.
Yeah. Too long. In terms of, I know this is like going back a tiny bit in what we were talking about here, but you mentioned like things picking up over the second half of the season, and like George Springer particularly like getting a little bit hot and then leveling out a bit. I kind of like, I don't know why this came in my head. I was looking into it a few days ago and I like tweeted it out, but George Springer, these were his numbers from June 25th onward. After, I don't know if you remember, he got like a little bit more upright in his batting stance. They talked about it on Blue Jays Central and stuff like that. But yeah, from that point onward, from June 25th, when he kind of broke out of his slump, about half a season, like 319 plate appearances, he had 14 home runs, slash 249, 327, 453. So that's a 780 OPS and a 123 WRC plus, which is obviously not like, it's not like world beating or anything like that. But if he can like produce like that, or like honestly, maybe even like a little bit below that next year, like let's say hypothetically you could like lock in right now George Springer for like 20 to 25 home runs, 22, let's say, home runs next year, and like a 750 OPS plus, and he's an above league average hitter. I think you're probably like signing that deal and mailing that in immediately, right? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. I'll take.
Yeah, and like honestly, I think that's pretty realistic. Like, I don't see him. I mean, you never know, but I could definitely see him kind of having at least a decent year next year.
Yeah, his presence still means a whole lot, even with his production declining. I'm just hoping that he's fully healthy, ready to go for the whole entire season.
He's a champ.
Yeah, that's a big factor.
I used to argue that he was the cog in our machine, and I still kind of believe that at the root of it, he is kind of when he goes, we go type situation, you know?
I don't know if I agree with that anymore. Like, I definitely would have, like, before this year. I think just with the age and the the way things generally trend at that point.
For lineup construction, no, but for locker room vibes, I think it's still kind of that. But yeah,
that I can get on board with.
Yeah,
I think he's a big presence for sure.
Yeah, the locker room guys. Yeah, where do you see him hitting next year?
Well, I was right about to bring up, like, I don't think that. I don't think he can hit leadoff next year. I don't think he should have been hitting leadoff this year at all. No. And I think it would be a huge mistake to stop him in the leadoff hole. As much as lineup construction is like people put too much stock into it, it's not as big of a deal, really. Probably the one part of lineup construction that is most important is that leadoff hitter and maybe like the top three. And I think you need someone who gets on base a lot more, hitting in front of Bo and Vlad than he does.
I agree.
It's not having any leadoff Springer dinger tweets hitting the timeline.
Yeah, well, Santa's never going to catch Ricky, I don't think, but I almost said Reggie. I don't know why. It's October. That's why. It's October.
Yeah.
But he's never going to catch Ricky, but it would have been cool to see how far he could have went, but I think he's probably at his limit for leadoff at bats at this point in his career.
So on the topic of leadoff hitters, who do you guys think will be the new leadoff hitter? And I'll give you my answer first. As of right now, I would say Will Wagner. Low key, a sneaky option because of his contact rate. And I think he could pencil him in as a leadoff hitter against righties. And I guess he'll be playing some second base as well. But yeah, who do you guys think will be?
He'll be on the roster then.
Oh, I think he might make the roster, is what I'm thinking.
I think it's so hard to say, like, to answer that question until we see what the offseason looks like.
I was going to say, I hope it's an acquisition.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I hope it's an acquisition.
Yeah.
I think that, like, Wagner, I think if he's, like, starting the season as your leadoff hitter, I think you're in a pretty bad spot, honestly. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Will Wagner, but, like, I think he should be competing for, like, a bench role. Like, he's completely unproven as a major league player. He has a tiny sample for this past year.
He also had surgery, no? Or is having surgery?
He had surgery.
Yeah.
I think it should, like, in a similar vein of thought as Will Wagner, I think it should either be like someone they acquire and is well suited for that role, or Spencer Horwitz. I think if they don't acquire a guy that can hit leadoff, I think Spencer Horwitz, like, I mean, he's got the contact ability. He's shown that he's, like, really good at being able to adjust his swing, adjust his mechanics, and kind of, like, figure things out on the fly, which I think is, like, a really good side of someone being able to stick as a major league hitter. He played last year, and then the amount of sample he had this year, it's like a bigger sample than a lot of the guys that came up this year. And I mean, he has the contact ability. He also has that on base profile, right? Like, he walks a ton, takes a ton of pitches. I think he's like aside from him being, like, not fast, I think he's like pretty much everything you wanted to a leadoff hitter.
Yeah, I'm just going through the free agent class here, trying to pick out someone that you could slot in at the top of the order, like, fairly confidently. And I mean, there's not
really a lot.
There isn't a lot. So I do think
there's a lot of middle of the
look.
order.
Yeah, like where Ha-Sung Kim, I could see potentially getting some looks near the top of the order, but even him, some of these guys younger, like, absolutely you could look at seeing, like, Whit Merrifield 5 years ago, but, like, Juan Soto, I mean, you probably still wouldn't even he's not an option realistically. And you probably still wouldn't even lead off, but
yeah, let's say they did acquire Juan Soto. I'd be down to hit him lead off. I'd be down to go Soto, Bladbo, or go like Horwitz, Soto, Bladbo. I mean, like, this is just wish casting now, but
that's a conversation for a different time for sure. But man, if we could get him, oh my god. Okay. Yeah, I don't really see anybody here. I don't. I think the only one you could probably, like, Christian. I wouldn't even put Christian Walker near the top of the order either. I think you'd stick him in the heart of it.
Cleanup guy.
We also have some playoff stuff to get around to now. So let's maybe
shift to October, baby.
On the Blue Jays offseason stuff and the roster construction at a later date. Just to wrap up the Atkins and Shapiro media availability. As far as, like, definitive things that they came out with during that discussion, I guess, like, the main takeaway, I guess, aside from the generational player quote, was that Atkins is back. Like, Atkins is back as GM. That's confirmed. John Mattingly is no longer offensive coordinator, which I don't know if anyone ever definitively knew what that was for a baseball team. But yeah, R.I.P. Guillermo. Very sad.
Rip.
And then he also made that comment about they are prepared to move a little bit more aggressively in the free agent relief pitching market. And that was kind of interesting because they've been obviously, like, entirely reluctant to do that previously. I think.
Yeah. Without getting too much into it, we've talked a lot about Romano and that back end of our bullpen. And I think that might be low key what he's hinting at, that there is a definite need for a piece at that
Hey,
that end.
Hunter. How are you doing, bud?
Hey, Ryan Stanek.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of older options. Seawald, Robertson,
David Bednar.
Presley. Yeah, Bednar's a good one. Blake Trinan. He's not old, but I would like that. Expensive though.
Yeah. Buck Farmer, I'm kind of in on a little bit.
He might be a good cost efficient option. But yeah, we're getting a little sidetracked here.
Yeah. And then just to wrap up that like bullpen spending discussion, it's just interesting because like the two biggest relief contracts they've given out are Chad Green, the $21 million option they picked up last offseason, and then I think Jimmy Garcia before that. And they've really avoided, for good reason, like spending on relievers. It's so volatile, right? And like there's so much opportunity for risk there. But it'll be interesting to see if they end up like pushing that further and like giving a guy 3 years or 4 years and like getting an Estevez or who's the other there's a handful of other ones, but there's someone in particular I'm thinking of. It's not Myles Garrett, but he's still under contract.
Cleveland Browns pass rusher?
No, the reliever.
I'm not sure who you're thinking of.
I'm
I'm looking at the free
Not
agent list right now. Will Smith? No.
No.
We should sign him though, because it seems
I
like
did make a faux pas there. I'm thinking of Braxton Garrett, not Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
Braxton get he's still.
I was like, oh,
yeah. Whoops.
it's 18 sacks a year from the pitcher.
Yeah, I could do something, right? Yeah, here I'll pull that up on Sport Track, but and then as far as the other comments from Ross and Shapiro, they were also saying that they would be in the starting pitching market, and they were saying they'd both be in like the depth and impact markets there, which I find like kind of encouraging as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a good mix of both.
I would say there's one thing that kind of bugged me from what Ross Atkins said. Well, I mean, a lot of things bugged me, but this one in particular was when someone asked him about like getting some boppers or getting some power. He highlighted that he definitely wants to be careful by getting a lot of guys who strike out a lot. But he said that home runs are not really how you win games in the postseason. Meanwhile, you see networks like ESPN posting a graphic that says teams that win postseason games when they out homer their opponents, they win 85% of the time. So
yeah,
like
hey, analytics.
You still need boppers, Ross. It doesn't matter. There has to be a balance for sure. There could be this one guy that maybe strikes out more than 26% of the time, but if he gives you a good chance to come up with clutch hits and take one out for a 3-run shot, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I mean, we're in the midst of a 1-0 Phillies Mets game. That's the solo shot stands is the only difference right now.
Schwarber.
Yeah. And then another home run changes that game.
Yeah.
Pete Alonso against the Brewers.
Exactly. Look at that.
Against Reeves in that crazy.
Oh my God. So Pete Alonso against the Brewers was so crazy, dude. Like, so the tipping pitches, I'm sure you guys have all seen the breakdown. I mean, They were all over him. They knew what was coming. He knew what was coming, and he shit on that baseball.
Yeah, I tweeted about that quote as well, Christian. That's probably the one that bothered me the most as well. And he said power's like a low hanging fruit to add. And they need to be like cognizant of strikeouts as well. And that scares me because 3 of the 4 power bats outside of first base, like I'm not including Alonso and Walker in this just because of Vlad, but like Teo, Tyler O'Neill, Willie Adames, all guys that could slot in at the spots the Jays have available, left field, second base, third base. They all have like well above league average strikeout rates. So is he just like ruling those guys out? Because that would suck.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
I would love to have Tyler O'Neill on this team, especially as a Canadian team. Although I would be a little bit cautious about getting him off the market coming off such a hot year because he's had such an up and down year and it's been riddled with injuries. But again, like I would still love someone like that on this team for sure.
It'd
So
be,
And get more about him as well.
it'd be a lot of
Do you
fun.
guys know about the Guillen number, like that concept? Yeah. So Adam and Chris, do you guys know so it's like,
Refresh my memory here.
so it's named after the Ozzie Guillen and like how his White Sox teams, they would just hit like a ton of homers and that was their whole like thing in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And the Guillen number is that, and this is just over the past 3 seasons, but basically the amount of runs that are scored strictly as a result of home runs hugely increases in the playoffs. Like in the regular season for the past 3 years, it was 39.7%. And then in the playoffs, it jumps to 49%. So like, and it makes sense, right? Because the pitching is just way better. It's harder to string together hits. Most of the ways runs are scoring is the guys running into one, right?
Yeah.
So like, you need that. Like, I will also, and I did this for like, you guys remember we did the column like a long time ago. I did this for that, and in the playoffs in 2020, when the Dodgers won, they had the most home runs in the playoffs. Most home runs in the regular season, second most home runs in the playoffs. Braves in 2021, third most home runs in the regular season, most in the playoffs. 2022, Astros, fourth in home runs regular season, second playoffs. Rangers, 23, fourth in the regular season, first in the playoffs. So, like, if you're not coming like top 5 in home runs in the regular season and you're not hitting in the playoffs, like, you're probably not going to. It's probably going to do it for you. Like,
one exception would be the Kansas City Royals of 2015. However, the Kansas City Royals, what they had to make up for the lack of power is they had a lot of speed. They have a lot of
and they had an insane bullpen.
I also feel like a kind of underrated part of that is it's such a big momentum shift, especially in the playoffs. And if you're at home too, like I feel like that definitely impacts it, right? And like when the Jays were fun and good, like that 5-game series against Texas, like Tulo's ripping oppo field homers, Kevin Pillar is hitting one above his head opposite field. Like it makes a difference. It shuts the crowd up and it gets you into it.
Yeah, I mean it's a cliche, but hitting it is contagious, and cliches are true a lot of the time, right? Like,
There's a lot of weight to something that gets said often.
Yeah, man. But yeah, I think that's probably enough on the Shapiro Atkins availability. I know it is for myself. So yeah, let's get into some of this wildcard action that's been going on. I was pretty hyped about the Tigers beating the Astros. I thought that was pretty awesome to see Hinch come in and do that to what was his dynasty originally.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
My favorite stat was Josh Hader's salary is $19 million and the Tigers' 26-man roster is 18.8.
Yeah.
So crazy, dude. There's so many layers to this Tigers run right now. Like the sellers are they're stomping on. I mean, they got stomped on today, but they went their bullpen chaos didn't really work out for them for the first time in a long time. So they got who they want going tomorrow, though. So it could be a 1-1 series before we blink.
Yeah, they got kind of steamrolled today.
Yeah, that first start though.
By
the Scooble. Oh no, the Scooble wildcard start was just absolutely insane. I know me and Ian were talking about the what was it, 94, 96 mile an hour slider he threw.
Yeah, 94 mile an hour slider.
94. Yeah. That we thought DeGrom was the GOAT of hard sliders. I think we just found a new GOAT of hard sliders. That is one of the nastiest pitches I've ever seen thrown. And it was in a playoff.
Yeah, it was just strikeout Jeremy Pena. It was like a back foot breaker. And like, I mean, I remember when I watched it, I was saying this exactly my exact thought process. I was like, is that a cutter? Oh, he doesn't throw a cutter. Oh, that was a slider. And then like, yeah, that was crazy, man. I was absolutely tripping out.
Yeah, no, I had to go back and watch the game because I was working. So when I got home, I was watching for the pitch and I knew the at-bat was coming, but I just was like waiting for it. I was waiting for it. And then like I saw it, and I just still couldn't even knowing it was coming. Like I was like, they had to have read that wrong. Like, was there a malfunction with the TrackMan, or like nope, it was just pure nasty, vile, disgusting art.
Yeah,
It'll be fun though, because I kind of want Cleveland to win because they're the new Canadian team. They got 4 Canucks on their playoff roster, so I feel like
our Cleveland Guardians.
First time in MLB history, 4 Canadians on an active postseason roster.
Canadian Guardians.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck
the Tigers and the Guardians series is like, I mean, that's my World Series, honestly. Like I'm so hyped about this DS right now. Yeah, it's crazy.
It sucks they're playing each other so early. I would have loved to see them both go on a run.
Honestly, have both the Tigers and Guardians in your predictions?
Okay, so we don't have a ton of time left here. We're gonna wrap up soon. Let's go to our beginning of season predictions for the playoffs and run through this really quick just to do it. So we'll start with Christian.
It's aged like milk. Awful. All right, I'll go through it. So I had the East, the Orioles. They had at least until the last week to try to contend for that. The Central was the Twins. We all know that colossal collapse. The Astros, I was right, but now they're out. The Yankees, to be in the wild card, they won the division. Texas Rangers, no one really expected that, even though we were aware of their injuries. And of course, I had to throw in the Blue Jays, which didn't go to plan. And I had the Astros coming out of the American League East, in which they got swept by the Detroit Tigers. The National League, it was the Braves, unfortunately, riddled with injuries. The Cubs didn't pan out. And obviously the Dodgers, they came out of the West. Phillies, Diamondbacks, and Giants, the wild card. Only one of them made it to the postseason, and had the Braves over the Dodgers. And the Braves are already out. And my words, at least 5 of those guys got injured throughout the season. Julio Rodriguez to come out of the AL. Ronald Acuna got injured. Pablo Lopez to win the Cy Young. Spencer Strider to win the Cy Young for the NL. And then Evan Carter and Yoshinobu Yamamoto to win Rookie of the Year. I didn't get any of those right, but it's tough.
Right. Those were all, still looking back at it, pretty logical choices.
I mean, these are things that are meant to be chosen incorrectly. That's just the nature of it. But I mean, you got 2 out of 3 in the AL divisions there, and yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's all right. There's some more egregious ones.
I would give you a solid like A- B+ for sure.
I would give myself a C.
Wait till you see mine, and then we'll have to find a new letter grade.
I'll run mine quick here. I did predict the division winner is in the American League, so I'll give some stuff to that. Everything else is pretty shit, I think. Yeah, I mean, Orioles and Rangers and Blue Jays are wild cards. Obviously, the Orioles were wild card 1, but like Rangers, Blue Jays, I got the homer pick, and I had the defending World Series champion. So I don't know, is what it is. Yeah, I also picked the Astros to come out of the AL, same as Larson, and yeah, it's looking like a pretty weak pick right now. And I'll chalk it up to some injuries, I guess. I don't know. NL, Braves in the East, Reds in the Central. That's a crazy pick.
That was a sleeper looking back on it, but it didn't work out. It was one of the
Yeah, I was hyped on them after they had that kind of like young and fun run last year. I'm feeling pretty good about the National League, actually. I think my predictions still mirror this. I think I still have the Phillies and Dodgers going to the NLCS, and I still have the Phillies winning the World Series. So we'll see how that pans out. AL MVP Juan Soto, I'm good with that pick. I think he had an MVP caliber season. If it wasn't for Judge and Bobby Witt, I think he's probably number 3 on there. Maybe Gunnar. And then NL MVP Shohei Ohtani, boom. 5 booms, actually. Kevin Gausman, Zach Wheeler. Kevin Gausman, again, another homer pick there. I guess I was way too high on him coming into the season. After those spring training injuries and the diminished stuff, yeah, he looked Didn't even look like an ace, let alone a Cy Young candidate. Zach
Bounce
Wheeler.
back though.
Zach Wheeler's that's a solid pick. I mean, I think
Yeah,
he's probably
that was
finishing
a really
second to
good pick.
Sale, second to
Yeah.
Sale in the NL Cy Young.
No one, if anyone predicted Sale to win Cy Young, they deserve a big ass handshake.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for
Wheeler
you.
was definitely like the safest NL Cy Young pick. Like just he was going to be in that top 3 probably at least. Jackson Holiday for AL Rookie of the Year pick. Yeah, can play enough. Maybe next year. Did he lose his rookie eligibility? Actually, do we know?
I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and I forgot to look it up. I'll do that right now. You keep going.
Okay, I'll keep going. Yeah, you look it up. I feel like it's borderline. I feel like it's really close.
It's 127, right?
I thought it was 131.
131.
Plate
Either
appearances.
way. Oh, right, wait 1 second.
He probably lost it, I'm guessing. But anyway, Jared Jones, he was on fire to start the year, and I mean, who could have seen Skeens coming? I guess that was a crazy run he had for his age. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with my predictions. Actually, I don't have too many qualms with that.
So Jackson Holiday appeared in 60 games with 208 plate appearances.
Yeah, no more rookie eligibility.
Damn.
Sad. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll go into mine real quick because they're pretty much similar, except for my egregious Blue Jays coming out of the ALCS over the Astros take. Super homer. I just didn't predict the downswings. I predicted the upswings, and hey, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. My awards.
I respect it.
Hey, next year I'll probably rip the exact same thing and we'll run it back.
Yeah, you got to.
And AL MVP minus Aaron Judge, I was correct. I picked Vlad. NL MVP got injured in May. Ronnie. Cy Young, Pablo Lopez. That didn't really work out. Spencer Strider also injured very early. Wyatt Langford. I mean, it was all right. He was okay for the AL Rookie of the Year.
He got
better. Yeah.
Really slow.
And Yamamoto again. That was a very obvious one, and I'm very happy Skeens came through because I ended up selling hard on Skeens Rookie of the Year on DraftKings pretty early, so I got on that at least.
Hopefully that works out. Yeah.
I got Orioles, Guardians, Rangers, Astros, Yankees, Jays. Fuck the Jays. Braves, Brewers, and obviously to win the NL West, the Colorado Rockies. Why not us? So close. Phillies, Dodgers, Padres, Dodgers beating the Braves, and then Dodgers over the Astros. A nice little rematch, not happening because the $18.8 million Detroit Tigers were in that one. Corey Seager, MVP. Nope.
That's a good shout, though.
Shohei, didn't expect record-breaking season, but here we are. Corbin Burns and Max Fried for Cy Young. Got my little Jew boy in there. And then
he is Jewish, by the way.
Sorry?
I was just clarifying that you're Jewish, not racist.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's not. I don't own him. And then Jackson Holiday and Paul Skeens strictly because of Livy Dunn.
Hey, bang, bang. It paid off. One thing I will mention really quickly is this is the first time since 2007 that both World Series teams did not make the postseason the following season. Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what? I kept thinking about it for the Rangers. The Diamondbacks totally slipped out of my mind for that. So that's it's a good shout, man.
Sucks for Gabby.
Yeah, it's like when you think about it though, like the Diamondbacks' improbable run last season definitely contributed. Like every time somebody asks me like, "Oh, who was in the World Series last year?" I always go like this. And it takes me like 5 minutes to figure out like, "Oh, it was actually the fucking Diamondbacks, bro." Like it seems like a fever dream. It honestly does.
I keep the Phillies pop into my head every time. And then I'm like, no, wait, they have Diamondbacks beat them. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
Wild.
I think the Phillies were up 3-2 in that series, right? And then they blew it.
Yeah, Diamondbacks won the last 2 games. That's right. Yeah.
It's crazy. That was
right,
that was even crazier.
With those predictions, we're going to wrap it up for today. Quick episode for you guys. We're going to be back with weekly episodes coming in around the middle of the week, probably on Thursdays, for the rest of the playoffs and into the start of the offseason. So thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll be back with some more updated predictions next week, some breakdown of some of these DS series, Probably a little bit more Blue Jays outlook and roster construction stuff going into the offseason, and more. So thanks so much for joining us on Bullpen Banter, and we'll talk to you next time.
Go Guardians.